Another good thing you wrote in here, and you just talked about a little bit, dogs are meant to be active and are happiest when they're doing something. And the reason I highlighted that was because it's the same thing with people. It's the same thing I've been talking about with Joe Rogan. It's the same thing I've been talking about with Jordan Peterson. With Joe Rogan, we were saying that, you need some kind of a struggle to make you feel like you're accomplishing something. With Jordan Peterson, it's, we talk about how if you take up the burden of responsibility, that's what gives you a purpose. And so for dogs, if you're just going to let your dog run around and do whatever he wants, well, he's not really going to be happy. Is that the point?
It is. And here's, I would say, a classic example of us as humans anthropomorphizing certain elements to dogs. By that, I mean that we look at it as a job, as purpose, right? Again, this is my opinion. I'm not a world-renowned canine psychologist, but I play one on TV. But, the fact is that, dogs, I don't think, have that depth of understanding of purpose. They have what I would classify it as, like a 5-year-old, is they have a need to be stimulated physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, nutritionally, everything, just like we as human beings. And where you see problems, and I see it all the time with my online dog training, is that, when people first start out, it's kind of a re-education of sorts of saying, number one, you got to put yourself in the dog's shoes, and I'm going to help you doing it by structuring these monthly lessons so that they're cumulative, so that you can understand and watch your dog transform and learn from it. But what it is that it's making an understanding, is just like with people, is that that dog needs to have physical exercise as part of his daily regimen. He needs to have routine so that he can count on you and depend on you for providing the resources that necessitates his life. He's got to have mental stimulation just like we do. I mean, you can do nothing but work out, but think about the difference between a gym workout and a jiu-jitsu roll in terms of what it does for your mind. Like, it's night and day difference. And so you can't just go make your dog blow his physical wad every day playing ball. Like, you've got to make his mind work. And that's where using a clicker to reinforce and shape behaviors comes into play, because now they have to think, they have to figure things out. And it's mentally exhausting, or at a minimum stimulating, and they require that. Same with food, same with sunlight, is that imagine you sit in here, 23 hours a day, or you don't go outside, you don't roll, you eat beef jerky and canned goods or McDonald's, do that week after week after week. Where are you going to be, across the board, physically, mentally, health-wise, immune system, everything's going to be garbage. And so what happens is a lot of these people, they think they're spoiling their dog. I don't know when that became a positive thing, but they think that by not making him do things, not teaching him things, not enforcing things, not having a routine in which that dog can depend on, not stimulating his mind, not making sure that he's physically active and keeping him in good shape, that those are all benefits, and they're not. They're detriments.
Needless to say, this applies directly to your kids and how you raise your kids. Just everything you just rattled off is basically how you end up with spoiled kids that are lazy and unproductive in their lives.
100%.
And by the way, lazy, unproductive, and unhappy, because they're not going to be happy when they're a loser sitting around playing video games, 23 hours a day, covered in Cheeto dust.
That's my favorite. One of the things that I think that is really interesting to me of how dog training kind of relates to life is that it's like a petri dish or almost a microcosm of life, is that no different than whether it's business, relationship goals, leadership, a coach with his athletes, a teacher with students, a parent with their kids, you name it, but a general with his troops, is that you have to have an objective. You got to know, how do I want my dog, what does a finished dog look like? You got to know in your mind, what is that? Just like if you want to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu, you want to own a $10 million company, whatever it is, if you don't know where you want to go, you're not going to steer it anywhere. You're going to be floating around. So you got to know that first. Then you got to be honest with yourself in terms of doing an evaluation. Where am I? Okay, now I know where I want to be. I know where I'm at. Now it's formulating a plan, and then you schedule it and execute it, just like every other aspect of your life. There is honestly no difference. The neat thing about dog training is that you can go through that process dozens of times, as a dog trainer especially, but even if you just have a dog, that it's a condensed process that's in such a controlled environment. You see the cause and effect. You see the criteria-driven algorithmic process that exists in all of life, but it plays out, and you're manipulating it, you're controlling it, you're directly influencing every aspect of it. And so I've learned more about people by training dogs than I would have ever imagined. You know, I mean, it's mind-numbing almost how much you can learn from training dogs and how to interact with people based on all of that. You know, it's pretty fascinating, I think.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. I got that all out of this book too.